Hey there, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Nadia.
Welcome to Navigating New Ground, where we dive into real honest conversations about navigating life's transitions away from home.
We're here to share our journeys, hear yours, and remind you that no one has to navigate new ground alone.
So today's episode is part of the Navigating Culture series, and we will have a conversations about what was it like growing up as an immigrant in Germany.
We are very grateful to have a very special guest with us, Daisy. And Daisy and I knew each other from church in Stuttgart, and we're now living here in Munich. Daisy is now a project manager at an IT company. And although she's had different career changes in the past, so different career experiences in the past, and now she's also an active member of the church community, serving in the dance team, and she also leads her own small group.
Welcome,
All
Daisy.
right, thank you.
Thank you for being with us and our listeners today. I know it's not easy with all of your job and your church responsibilities. Could you introduce us yourself about your background and how you are here and who you are?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Daisy. I am Italian. I was raised by Italian parents. I was born here in Germany, though. I lived 9 years in New York, so I'm a little bit of a child of how do you call it?
The third culture kit.
Third culture kid, a global citizen, basically.
Internationals.
International, yes. And yeah, as Nadia said, I used to live also in Stuttgart before where I met her, and now I'm living here in Munich, where I'm part of our church and also leading part of the dancing team and have been leading a small group. Yes.
So, could you share with us a little bit about what your childhood was like here as an immigrant in Germany?
Mm. So it was a little bit of a different time than it is now. When I was born, immigrants were a new thing. It's not that it was a new thing, they started already when the guest workers came to Germany. But we were a little bit at the end of this kind of era. So, well, my parents were. And when I was born here, my parents just had moved here. Well, my dad just had moved here a year before that, and my mom when she was 16. And so they couldn't really speak German. And I grew up in a small district of a city, which was a little bit of not in the city, so a little bit outside of the city. And there were a lot of immigrants because there was a lot of like projects that say housing, government housings for immigrants. And but I didn't know that, like I didn't understand that up until I was in school, that it was a difference between immigrants or German and Germans.
Mm.
So growing up before school, it was fun because all my neighbors were like immigrants. We had like people from everywhere, from Turkey, Russia, even the US, from like army-based kids. And then about when I went to school, I started realizing, oh, I don't know the language. Because I grew up like really also surrounded just by a lot of Italians because, my parents are Italians. And I also realized that they are different than me, but I didn't think that they're different than me. I thought I'm different than them. So yeah, I mean, I grew up in a really loud environment, like very everybody yells at each other, I think, funnily, but it's because we're Italian, so we're very passionate. And at school, I had to sit still and I had to like uh,
Mm.
focus and listen. I didn't know that before. I didn't understand that.
Mm.
Mhm. And also in school, then I realized that we are basically, they used to call us the area where were living in. They're called it Conco. So basically, there was a little bit of racism in there too, but not just within Germans and immigrants, but also within us immigrants.
Mm.
And and yeah, so it wasn't always easy especially in kindergarten and the more in the elementary school, because kids are mean.
Mm.
But I also learned that was different was the way I dressed was different than the way they dressed because
Mm,
in Italy we are like fashion and dressing up or being dressed well is very important and which is the opposite, which doesn't mean that it's bad, but it was just different here. And that was also a thing that I learned the hard way to be like, okay, yeah, well, I'm different. I always thought like, oh, I'm so different because I always wore dresses. And then I remember being a teenager and being like, Mom, don't want to wear dresses anymore. I don't want to like look like different.
mm, mm,
Yeah. And I think when the wall came down, so 1991, and then a lot of people from the eastern part came, the racism became a little bit more. Especially in my city because 19 in February 1945, England bombarded the city fully, and so my city was heavy with guest workers who built up the city again. So there were a lot of immigrants, and when a lot of people came from the east to the west, we experienced a lot of skinheads and a lot of like we saw them on the street. So every year also on this 12th of February of every year where they celebrated it, they would go on the street and basically proclaim against immigrants. And we were told to not go outside that day, on that day it's in February. And so I grew up like this. I grew up knowing, okay, and this around this time, I'm not allowed to go out because there's something wrong with us immigrants and we're the bad guys. And this changed, obviously. Now it's not as bad anymore. I think they're not protesting on the street anymore as it used to be back then. But yeah,
wow.
Very scary.
But were you living in the east or the west?
in the West.
Ah, okay. Yeah. And have you ever experienced or questioned yourself as a kid growing up? What is really your identity? Because you were saying like your parents are Italian, but you are actually like born in Germany, so I would consider you are German.
Mm.
No, still Italian. Okay. Because I have also colleagues that they are born here, they are Germans, but their parents are different.
Mm. I think it's different for everyone.
Mm.
I think for me, because I was raised in this really cultural Italian family with, I have so many cousins and so many uncles and aunts. I always saw myself as Italian. Also because my parents had this like really thing of like saying like we are Italians and we are not like Germans either. Like, it came both ways. And so I was always raised like that. And every time, let's say, if my identity was really difficult, I'm coming back to your question, but so every time, let's say I started to like catch up, then my parents would be like, "Oh, you're starting to become too German." And every time let's say in school, I was like maybe starting already dressing up for some things that are not, you don't dress up. Then they were like, "Oh, you're so Italian." So it was always like, who am I in general?
Mm.
It wasn't just because of being here. It was always like this pulling from both sides. Like I never knew, am I too Italian? Am I too German? Who am I? Like, am I? Yeah, it was very difficult. A lot. I think where I found my actual identity was when I lived in New York, because there I could just be who I am without having any labels of I'm Italian or German or whatever. Yeah. And growing up, also the school weren't as open to different cultures as they are now. I think now they're more open and they're more integrating. But there wasn't, okay, Italians, they celebrate this and Turkish, they celebrate this. No, it was more like, this is Germany and we have to all accustomed to German things. So, but we, like, for example, celebrates Christmas very different, like, not very, but more open, like more bigger. Germans don't do that as much. And so that was also difficult to see, okay, what is right and what is wrong. I mean, as a child, you think maybe I'm wrong, maybe they're right, or whatever.
Mm.
Now how would you say if I say who you are, how would you?
Hmm. I think I see myself as an Italian, but I have a German education, and the street smartness of New York City.
Yeah, that's you. That's you. I mean,
Yeah.
you have you have a bit of tree, and I think that makes you so special.
Mhm. Yeah, I think in New York, when I actually identified myself or like thought about, okay, who am I? What is my identity? I realized that I don't like putting people in boxes. I think that I can be Italian, don't like pizza. I do, but I'm just saying, like, you don't have to be a certain way just because you are who you are, where you're born, or where your parents are born. And
It's
so
true.
when I was there, I just want to call myself global citizen because I want to learn from other cultures. I want to like get to know them because like yeah, the stereotypes. I mean, there are some stereotypes that are true, but at the same time, we're just all individual people.
Mhm,
Mm.
definitely.
Mhm.
Um, and how was it for your parents? How was it for their journey here in Germany? And then also, how was it with their culture, just adjusting to a different culture?
Very good question. So, my mom, when she came to Germany, it wasn't because she wanted to, it was because my grandmother decided to bring all her children here because of the mafia going on back then. It was really difficult in Sicily. So when she was 16, she just felt like she was never really integrated because at that time was even less immigrants, and so they less knowledge about it. And my dad came here because he wanted to do like a year outside of Italy just to hang, just to experience something new. And then they met really quick, and so I think for them it was difficult because they didn't want to stay here. In the beginning, it was very like, we're just here for a little bit and then we're gonna go back. But obviously there was not really much work in Italy, so they stayed and then they had us, so they decided, okay, we stayed because of the kids. And I think
Mhm.
to this day, it's not that they don't like the German culture, but they don't fully see themselves with the German culture. My dad still doesn't know how to speak very good German, and my mom, she's better, she's good with it, but she still has difficulties expressing herself. So I think for them, they all never felt like fully home here,
Mm.
even though they tried, but they're just, yeah, it's different, it's different for them. They're just different culturally wise different. We're more of family people and community people, and eating together and eating food is so important for us. And when, for example, on Christmas, we're like 20 people together. And so explaining this sometimes to people who don't have the same culture, it's difficult. And I think that's why they never felt like fully home here. They're
Mm.
also planning to move back when they retire.
Oh, really? Oh,
Mhm.
wow.
And I can relate to that as well. I mean, now me and my husband here, we also are seeing what your parents are seeing.
Mhm.
We're saying like, okay, at least I'm saying that we're gonna stay here for a while, a while more, and a while more, and how more, I don't know. But there's a possibility that pop with our kids is as old as you now, as grow up as you are now. We were gonna say like, okay, staying for the kids, and then it's another year passed by. Yeah, but but I think definitely in comparison to those days and now it's much more easier. It's still difficult, but it's much more easier than before because now you have internet, you could call home more often, and with the flights, it's more affordable. You could fly more often, and people are more accepting towards immigrants or internationals or expats. What do you call it? It's all the same thing. People from abroad. There are still some extreme cases, but I think it's in compared to before, it's much more awareness existing.
Mhm.
For sure. The thing is, when you're here, it's really comfortable being here. You have like a lot of benefits that you don't have in other countries. So
Yeah.
that is also one of the reasons why many people stay.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
But retrospect, in retrospect, what would you say some of the positive outcomes? Because we keep focusing on the not so easy part or the struggles and challenges. Um, what are the positive things that you see coming from and being influenced from all of these three different cultures and experiences that you have gained in your life?
Mm, many things. I think first of all, growing up here, with knowing that I'm an immigrant, meeting a lot of immigrants helped me to see the world not just in a box, like, oh, that's only my culture, no culture, but I was able to get to know many different cultures. Also in New York, I mean, New York is a melting pot full of cultures. So I'm was able to experience and taste foods and get to know people from all around the world. So I love that and I'm open to that. I learned to be okay with myself. I think I learned that eventually I am who I am, and not everybody is the same, and that's totally nice and beautiful, I think.
Mhm.
And I do say that living in the US, seeing how the education system is there, I'm very thankful that I grew up here and
Mhm.
that I went to school here because I got to learn many things that I think didn't weren't able wasn't able to learn when if I lived in the US. So that
Mhm.
is for sure. And also living in the US, I think that opened my eyes to see how easy we have it here in Europe. Let's say mostly here in Germany, not everywhere in Europe, but here in Germany for sure, we have it really easy. So yeah, I think I got to learn to be more resilient and love and accept everybody.
Nice.
Mhm.
Um,
Encouraging to hear. For sure.
Mhm.
and then now that the demographics in Germany look very different than how it was when you were growing up. Do you think that the kids nowadays are having an easier time?
Mhm. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, talking to many of my coworkers come from India as well, or from other different cultures. I think they're more integrated, and I think they do celebrate, for example, the Diwali fest a little bit. Like they
Mhm.
do integrate the cultures more. I think they're more open about it. Yes. I don't know exactly because I don't have children yet, so I don't know. But I see from what I see from the outside and from how people in, let's say, in Munich react to each other, to expats and stuff. So I think yes, they're more open to immigrants and to different cultures.
Mhm. And how does it when now you are grow up and you have experienced all of those things, you as an individual in this society, whether it's in Germany, US, or Italy, or anywhere, how do you see that you can play a part in this, all of these things, whether if in the sense of educating the next generations, and also you said that you are also hosting small groups in the sense of the church community, because I believe not everyone has this experience that you have. Um, yeah, how are you playing your part in uh, extending this awareness to them, or even help them realize actually it's not easy for the immigrants. It's not easy for us as internationals because locals see things differently, internationals see things different. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good question. Um, I do feel like what I try to do, like my heart is definitely for inclusion. Like I like to show everybody that we're different and that we like my small groups, an international small group, we're from different kind of countries.
Mm.
So I like to um, just show everybody that we have different issues, but we're all the same at the same time. We're all humans. And I think what I also do is like being curious about other cultures and getting to know them. And when it comes to our church, my heart is to like bring more awareness to the German communities about what internationals need, like have more English speaking stuff or Spanish speaking stuff, for example, in our church. It is not just in one part of the community, but like integrated in all of the other communities, which is obviously not easy, but that will be something beautiful if we can like work on that. And yeah, when I see, for example, people say something judgmental or let's say um, stereotypical about other cultures, then I always try to educate. I always try to be like, hey, maybe you don't know that. Maybe you should ask them why they do certain things, and but be curious about it and don't be like judgmental or put
Just
this,
assume.
yeah, assume things exactly. Yeah, for sure. Um, Yeah, I think most important is like to just to teach people or tell people to be more curious about others and more open-minded instead of thinking, oh, these people are like that or these people like that. It's just not the way. And that makes me always so angry. Yeah. Yeah.
It is not easy. So, um, I was just sharing with my colleagues that day because they were asking me what do I do on my weekends. That's a very typical questions that appear in a workplace on a Monday. And they always ask, oh, what do you do on a weekend? And I know I could just answer it with a very simple answer like, yeah, I just had maybe some friends hang out and stuff. But I wanted to be more specific. So I did share like I'm meeting a Malaysian as well,
Mm.
um, who is new in town, and I've never met her, but it was through a common friend who introduced us through WhatsApp, and then we are just meeting up for the first time. And we had brunch together, and I shared that it's always nice to have someone who's from the same country or something, or have the same culture to talk. And also, like my husband, I always offer a meal with them, or even just to care and see how we can help them into integrating into Germany here.
Mhm.
Because it's not easy. There are so many questions that they have. Very simple things like even where to find, how do you go to a doctor? And like, how do you get a phone contract? Things that are probably not even a questions for locals who grew up here. But these are the questions that we as international always ask the first thing when we appear or come to a new country. And my colleagues, they are Germans, so when they hear it, they are like very surprised because they never knew like these are the questions that people have or struggle with. And I think through bits and pieces here and there, even just for like a 30 minutes lunch with them at the office, it's already a good opening of the perspective for them, to see that not everything is, yeah, so easy, also straightforward
Yeah.
for other people.
What I also have been doing here and there sometimes is like helping translate documents or helping them making appointments or opening a bank account, for example.
Mm.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Those are, if you know it, it's very easy, and people wonder why don't you know it.
Mhm.
But for people who doesn't know the language, that's 10 times harder than anyone because all the information you can find mostly are in the original language of that country.
Sure.
Mhm.
And yeah, but which reminds me of one thing. When I moved back from New York, I was there for 8.5, 9 years almost. And basically, so I'm still an Italian citizen. And when I moved back, basically, I was called again an immigrant, like basically an expat, even though I was raised and born here. And then I also had to start from zero with everything. And even for me, as like a German speaking person, it was difficult. So imagine for people who don't even speak the language.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. We have all experienced that one way or the another. That's why
Mhm.
now we also try to, because we understand how it feels like, the struggle. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
And I feel like it's also so complicated with the German bureaucracy. Like opening a bank account maybe in New York compared to here is just so, so much harder here in Germany.
It is. Yeah, yeah. It is.
Mhm. Mhm. Would there be any suggestions that you would share to immigrant parents who are anxious about raising kids here in Germany?
Yeah. I think the first thing is, um, so the question was like anxious about raising them or tips that I could give them?
Anything, any tips that you can
Okay.
give them?
The first tip that I would give them is it's so easy because if you have kids, they're so easy if it's faster for them and easier for them to learn the language. So it's so
Mhm.
easy to rely on the kids to be like their translator or whatever it is, which is totally fine. But that I think parents should keep in mind that this will make the kids more mature faster than they should. It's a big burden on them. So I think that is one thing, and I think the kids should not think that their parents need them in this area. So maybe they should keep that in mind.
Mhm.
I would recommend if they move to a place where they want to stay for a long time, that to learn the language, or at least
Mm.
the important things. I know it's not easy. I mean, especially German is not an easy language at all. So don't get me wrong. But because what my problem was my parents couldn't speak so well German, so they didn't really know what was going on in my school. Or even if, let's say, the teachers would try to explain them, it was not easy. So I think that is one thing that if you have children and you moved to a different country. The second thing is to not be afraid to also teach them different cultures, teach them the culture that they're in, who they are, what they stand for, and also teach them that it's okay that they're different and but respect the others obviously and respect themselves in a way and be okay to embrace your own culture even though you're not the same.
Mm.
And I think yeah, look for help. I think parents should definitely look for support for other parents, as maybe your friend did from Malaysia that came here. Just always look for other people who already been through this and been through this system and like know what the kids needs here, like what yeah, the
Mhm.
school it's how the school is going, like all the stuff that you need to know for your kids is very important. So that your kid, because the most important thing is, especially it's so difficult when you move away. That is the first thing that is difficult for a child, being away from where you grew up. And then the second thing is then having the burden of learning a new language, learning everything new. Everybody's different than you. Everything is different than you knew. So I think it's important to give them a safe space to be like, hey, it's okay that you are different. This is the culture here. This is who they are. But it's also okay to learn and become a little bit more like the culture because they learn really fast, right? So
Mhm.
giving them just a safe space.
And it's also something that you can't avoid. Like you're going to grow up in a culture, and that culture is going to be a huge part of who you are.
Definitely.
And I think the last thing that you want to do is to make them feel torn, like they have to choose one culture over the other, but they get
Mm.
to choose both. Mm,
And I know it's not easy for a parent,
for
especially
sure.
when you're like in a strict culture. Let's say you're very strict, conservative, or very strict in your culture. And let's say here they don't have really a strict culture like that, a conservative culture. And let's say they learn a little bit things that are different from your values. That's so difficult. But I think before you move here, and sometimes it's not a choice to move here, I understand that. But maybe be open about it. Be open that you cannot protect your child and keep it in your culture 100% as you would in at your home.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I think as the generation changed, the important things for each different culture is also very different. It will evolve and it will change. It changes rapidly, honestly. Just in one generation itself, the focus of um every phase of life is different. And a lot of times you try to put our values on other people and try to
Mm,
change their perspective into our
Mm,
perspective. But actually, it's not exactly the right thing to do because everyone's experience is different. Like how we don't usually enjoy when our parents pressure us on the things that are important. Maybe for them, it's because they've went through what they have went through. For them, certain things are more important than the other. But for us at this generation, it doesn't apply anymore. And using this same concept, whether even within the same culture, this concept can be applied to um, different culture generations as well. Definitely. No one is supposed to force their ideal culture or values or lifestyle onto other people. But I do agree that conversations like this should be spoken more and more, especially in a very international family where mixed culture family, because I think a lot of the parents are afraid, maybe they don't dare to speak more with their kids about this. But I think a lot of children, whether or not you choose to speak with them about these issues, um, they have to experience this. So having conversations about it will help them to um, have a bigger perspective, because then they will have more understandings about it. I do have a friend who is have a Korean mother, no, Korean father and a German mother, and but they are born in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
But he goes to a international Christian school. So the language that they use is English, but in order to survive in Egypt, you have to learn Arabic. But at home they speak German and Korean.
Oh, wow.
And it's very different, and they are like siblings. So the parents also did different strategies in bringing them up differently. So I think the oldest goes to a more Korean school, and so they can speak more Korean and have more Korean culture. So and then the youngest one they decided to send to the American school, and she's more international and could speak better Germans. And now they are all in Germany, back in Germany. And for them, it's so difficult to question all of these things, who they are and whatnot. But I think definitely conversations being talked about in the family will help a lot, and also among friends. Yeah.
For sure.
Like
And
this
also
conversation we are
educate.
having now.
Yeah. And also think educating other people about your culture. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're different. Like you have your own culture. And so it's cool to, if you have close friends, being able, hey, this is how we do it at home, or this is how we usually do it. Like, it's cool to educate others.
Yeah. And
Mm.
Not
honest,
everybody's open, but I think if they're close to you, they're gonna be open and then they will share and to others and it's gonna spread like that.
yeah.
Mm.
And honestly, when we look at, have you heard of like this DNA test that you could do, where you send
No.
in,
Yeah, I know
you
what
can
you
order
mean.
this like DNA circle. There are a few
Oh, the
brands.
DNA tests.
Yeah. So honestly, if everyone does it, um, I know there are split opinions about how protected this data are being, but if everyone does it, how can we say like this person is purely 100% a certain ethnic? But because we all come, if we believe in the Bible, we all comes from like one person.
For
And
sure.
yeah, and the reasons of us having so many languages and all is just to confuse us and distract us from being who we are or who we could be. And yeah, so definitely we are all immigrants in some way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess what advice could you give then to the immigrant kids who are struggling?
Well, speak about it. Talk to the person that you trust the most about the difficulties you have, for sure.
Mm.
Think, open up about what you think is different, or open up that you think that you're different, like speak about it. And mm, learn to be okay with who you are because you are special and you are unique, and that is okay. And also, mm, yeah, I think teach your friends, your buddies, your girls about your culture and be curious about it and maybe do like, for example, my friends they're from India and they made a Diwali party where we all sat together and eat. Like maybe do that, like invite them into your culture as well, but we'll also be open for their culture thing. Be open.
Mm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Mm. Do you have anything to add, Nadia? You are also a third culture kid. In
True.
actually, I am too.
Uh, yeah, no, I can agree with everything that you said the past few minutes actually, because I feel the exact same way. Like it's difficult to be a part of two cultures and to be around people that don't understand that you're just different, that you're neither fully Indonesian, you're neither fully Malaysian, you're both at the same time, and that exists because that's my life, that's my experience, and that it's not fair to kind of impose towards this person like, you have to do this because you are Indonesian, or you shouldn't do this because you're not Malaysian, and all of these things. And it is important to learn to appreciate that, just to have a safe space where you can talk about it and say openly that this is what you experience, this is your life, and that, yeah, it's okay because this is your life, that you get to embrace that and that it's a part of who you are. And um, yeah, I think it definitely helps to be around people who are open, who are very much into the international culture, where they're open about your background and your experiences, your culture, and they're willing to learn where you come from. And it just helps so much to be in that environment where you feel safe and you feel understood. And then I think it's always a challenge, even today, I feel, when you're outside of that safe space and then you're around people that just don't get it because they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to like put up this shield where you're like, okay, no, I have to defend my identity. And it's okay if they don't get it. It's fine if yeah, they just don't get it. But I have to be secure in who I am and not let that affect me in any way. Yeah. And I think especially in the younger years, the parents play such an important role, because it's like that is their safe space at that age. So it's really important for parents to just understand that it's going to be a challenge for their kids in terms of identity, and just let them be. Just accept them and listen to them, listen to what they're saying.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's okay that who they are.
Mm.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
actually, I actually find this mixed culture identity really beautiful because
Mm.
firstly, you understand the jokes of different cultures. Then you have like the double or triple amount of movies you can watch and
Mhm.
languages you can understand and songs that you can listen to. And there are always strengths and beauty from different cultures. And the more you open yourself to, the more beauty that you can receive and even experience. And I think that's so the beauty of having so many different cultures.
Yeah,
Mm.
I agree.
Mhm. Okay. And then to wrap out, would you consider migrating to another country?
Um, yes, I would. So, I would be open to, let's say that I would be open to move to another country if God wants me to. And because I do miss a little bit sometimes the warm culture that we have a little bit in Italy or in Spain could be.
Malaysia.
I do miss it. And sometimes I just feel like, yes, I would like to just migrate somewhere else and leave this country behind. But at the same time, obviously, the safety that we have here, and obviously my friends and everybody. but it's the thing that keeps me here. So, but again, I think if God told me move somewhere else, I would. But if I move, it would be next to the beach. It's warm. If not, I stay here.
Thank you so much, Daisy. Thank you for sharing with us all of these stories and experience that you have. And thank you for your time, really.
Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on Navigating New Ground. We hope today's conversation gave you some insight, support, or just a reminder that you're never alone in the journey.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, and share it with someone who might need it. You can find and follow us on Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.
Until next time, take care.
Take care.